Welcome back, guys. So this is our fifth tutorial for the Cypress automation with the framework creation from the scratch. So the previous video links are given in the description box. So if you require, you can go through that to cover the topic, whatever we will discuss till now. So in this lecture, basically we have covered the Cypress locators and then the types of the locators and how to write the locator in the CSS. Then we will discuss the Cypress playground that is provided by Cypress to find the locators, and then we will create a test using the assertion and run that test. So start bit, since you are able to see in my Word document, I am saying that Cypress only supports CSS selector for selecting the elements. So if you want to do the automation using the Cypress, you have to write the CSS only to identify the elements. It won't support XPath and other things to identify the locators. So we have to write the CSS only to identify the elements. So if we write the CSS only, then we will need to understand few concepts before moving ahead to write our automation rule. So that's why I'm writing the few types that is required to write the identify the CSS for the element. The first one is the ID. So if you want to identify the element using the ID of that particular element locator, then you have to write like hash and then the ID. Whatever the ID is provided by the developer, we have to provide the hash symbol there, and then we will use that ID. So to check that, I'm just moving to the browser. It's a site called practice.automation testing. So I'm using that. You can use any other website for your practicing purpose. To inspect that any element, just you have to go to element, right click and click on the inspect. And here for this list item, you are able to see that ID equal to menu item 40. And we want to use that ID and identify this list item. For that, just copy that syntax, Control F, and then whatever I said, like we need to put like hash symbol and then ID. It successfully identified the element. For that we have provided the ID. You are able to see 1 of 1 and the yellow mark that is showing the highlighted element. If you scroll the mouse and hover it, you are able to see that swap element. So using the ID, just we need to pass the hash symbol and then provide the ID value whatever is present for that particular element. In the similar way, for the class, we need to provide the dot symbol and the class name. For the class name, instead of hash symbol, we need to provide the dot symbol. So if you check here, the class name is called for this item like main underscore nav. Just copy that class name and put a dot and the class name. You are able to see that element is highlighted successfully, and we are able to identify this UL. So for class, just need to press the dot and then class name. Third one is the most important one because we are using that one very frequently in our test when we start our test case writing. That is called tag name attribute equal to value. Means first we need to define the tag name and then attribute and then value. So for that, if you go to that page again and able to see like if we inspect that particular image like this selenium books, so here you can see one attribute called alt. In the alt, the value is called size of selenium books. So if you want to use this attribute and identify this particular image, then we need to write like tag name, where the tag name is, just inspect this element again, where the tag name is img. So first we need to write the tag name img, then square bracket, and then the attribute name is alt, and then what is the value? Value is shop selenium books. Just copy that alt equal to then single quote or double quote, whatever you want, and this and bracket close. We are able to identify that element successfully using this syntax. So syntax is simple: tag name attribute equal to value, where the tag name is optional. If you remove this img tag from here, still you are able to identify this element successfully. So suppose there is two element where using the tag name you can identify that, then you can use the tag name. But if you want using the attribute equal to value you are able to identify that element uniquely, then tag name is not required. Just a one more example. If I select this image, here you are able to see title equal to automation practice site, and I just copy this text and press title, and then put soft automation practice site. Now you are able to see like we are able to find the two elements with the title automation practice site. First one is the hyperlink A, and the second one is the IMG automation practice site. But here we want to select the IMG one, not the hyperlink one. We want to select this image. So then in that case we need to provide the tag name as a IMG. Then it will highlight the element, the image one only. If you want to select the hyperlink, then we will provide the tag name as a. So the tag name is optional, but if you require to identify the element uniquely, then you need to provide the tag name. If it's already uniquely identified using attribute equal to value, then tag name is not required in that case. So that is the third one, the attribute tag name attribute equal to value. And if you want to use the contains, the value contain the some part of that particular value, then you can use the star one. Like instead of whole automation practice site, I just want to use that automation keyword only. Then we can write automation, or instead of this title we can put title star equal to. That is work similar to the contains. It will check it contains automation keyword or not. If it contains the automation keyword, then we are able to identify uniquely. So if you want to use the contains and the some part of that attribute, then you can use the star equal to. So that is basically the third one that we can use to identify the CSS. Fourth one is the parent locator and the child locator. It's a basic simple one. When you aware of the concept of the selenium and the writing the X bar, if you want to first locate the parent element and then you want to move the child element, then you are putting the slash and putting the child element like this. In the similar way, if you want to move from the parent to the child element in the CSS, you just need to, instead of the slash, you need to put a space here. The parent CSS, then space, then child CSS. I just give you one example here. Just identify this shop button again. Here the parent element is called list item, their ID equal to menu item 4, and the child item is this hyperlink that is contain the shop text. So first we will identify this list item. So we can type li and ID equal to, just copy that ID, this. So and then we want to move to the this hyperlink. So then we have to provide the space and then hyperlink. Now you are able to see this hyperlink is highlighted successfully and we are able to identify it. So if you want to move the locator from the parent to child, then we need to put just a space, parent CSS locator, then space, then CS, child CSS locator. So that is the concept. These are the four important concepts that is required while identifying the CSS, So basically these are the four locators. You can use it in your automation. And another utility is also available in the Cypress. Using that, we can identify the CSS automatically. These are the way to writing the CSS manually. But if you don't want to use it and use that utility, you can directly use that utility and copy the CSS. That is called the Cypress playground. I will show you. For that, just open the Visual Studio. And then we need to open the test runner. For that, I already told you, we need to navigate to node modules, then bin, then the command is open test runner Cypress open. It will take 1 or 2 minutes to open the test runner. So where the any sample test that you have, just click on that. So it will open that particular test and load that URL. It will take 1 or 2 minutes to load that URL. So it's loading. So in the top of this run test runner, you are able to see this utility. That utility is called Open Selector Playground. So whatever the thing is coming here, you just click on that. It's running. Just wait to complete the test. Then we will run this, because while loading it's not working when we are running the test. So just wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Meanwhile, I will pause the recording. Once the test is complete, then we will continue with this. See, Open Selector Playground. So test is executed successfully. So you are able to see that Open Selector Playground utility here. Just click on that and highlights this image. You are able to see that cy.get and the CSS is already present for that element. Here is the button for the copy that. You just need to copy that CSS and go to the Visual Studio, or you can paste that. So it will automatically provide the code with the CSS. So if you want to use that CSS written manually, you can use that command, or if you want to use this utility, then you can use the Cypress Selector Playground also to identify it. But that is basically for the basic images or the basic sentence where we can easily identify the CSS. But where you need to move to the parent to child navigation or some complex CSS is there, then you have to write the CSS manually only. That thing maybe fail in that case. So my suggestion is to write the CSS manually using the concept that I have told you. And if there's a very simple CSS is there, then you can use this playground utility and copy the CSS directly from here and then use for your test cases. But the writing the CSS manually is the better approach while writing the test framework. So these are the two ways that we have discussed to identify the CSS. There are few using the ID, class, attribute name, and how to move from the parent to the child locator. We have seen the Cypress playground that using that we can directly copy the CSS for that element is used in our cases. And now we will create a basic test and then we will discuss the assertions. So continue with the basic test. What we are doing in this test, we just open that practice.automation testing in website, and then we will verify the soft selenium books is present on that particular website or not. For that, I have already created the test cases. I will explain you what the things are we need to do for the creating that. So that we have discussed previously, describe it the scenario. First, we need to define the scenario, and inside the it, we need to write the test cases. And the cy.visit is the command that is required to open that particular URL. So we have passed the cy.visit, and then we need to pass that URL inside that. And then I told you the Cypress already waiting for that particular moment of the time for that particular element to the load. So automatic wait is already present in the Cypress. But if you want to put some manual wait, then you have to need the cy.wait command, and then you can put the wait like this also. If this is required for your case and everything is too slow for that particular element, you can use the cy.wait command. And then the cy.get is the command to identify the element in the Cypress. So we need to write that like the cy dot get, and then we need to pass the locator. So for this, the locator is the for the soft selenium books. We will identify it again. Just right click on that, inspect the element. This is the image tag where the attribute alt equal to soft selenium books. Just select this attribute img alt equal to soft selenium books, and we are able to identify this element successfully. Just copy that element and cy.get, and we are using the single quote here. So just put the double quote and that locator, And then we have to put the assertion to check that whether is coming only once or not. For that, basically, in the Cypress, we need to put the assertion. So for that, we are using the assertion that is provided by the Chai framework. So Cypress is supported the Chai framework. So the should assertion that we are using is provided by the framework called Chai. So for that, just put the assertion dot should, and then we need to check the element length. So in the browser, you are able to see it's coming only once, and that the thing we need to verify is coming only once or not. So for that, basically, we need to verify the length of that particular element is coming only once or not. For that, if you just put a braces and type have, then the multiple options are there: have dot length, have dot above, and all things. In that case, just we need to check the length. It's like a plain English. The cy dot get elements should have length, and then we need to pass the value 1. So that particular element should have length equal to 1. If it's having that particular length is equal to 1, then only it will pass the test cases. Otherwise, it will fail the cases. So the line is duplicate now. Just I'm removing the last two lines and just save it. And then we will run this test using the Cypress Test Runner. Just open this test. Just double click on it. It's loading that particular website. It's executing the cby.visit command and loading that particular website. So the site is loading. Again, I will pause the recording for few seconds and then we will continue once the test is executed completely. So test is executed successfully, and in the assert section, you are able to see that it will validate for that particular element and check the length is coming only once or not. So these are the basically the basic assertion. Using that, we have opened that URL, and using that chai assertion, we have validated that particular element is coming once or not. So in this lecture, we have covered the locators like CSS locator because it's only supported by the Cypress, and then the types of the CSS like ID, class, then attribute, and then how to move from the parent to child. And then we have created a basic test and put some chai assertion and validate the length to 1. In the my upcoming lecture, we will discuss the more about the Cypress locator, how to handle button, drop down, checkbox, alert boxes, and different kinds of the thing, and how we can handle these types of the element in the Cypress. And then we will slowly move to the framework creation part. So if you have any questions or query, you can reach out to me on the LinkedIn. My LinkedIn URL is given in the description box. So thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks a lot.